What is going on with art vlogger YouTube channels so far this year? I don't know if you've noticed in the art channels that you watch, but all of my favorite art vloggers, their videos just aren't doing as well this year as compared to like the past few months or even the past few years, which is really weird. I started thinking about this more when I was talking to a friend who also has an art YouTube channel, and both of our channels are extremely new, but we were both noticing that our views recently just weren't as high as they had been in the previous few months, and we weren't really sure why this was happening. So I thought it'd be really interesting to kind of like take a look across the board at some of my favorite art YouTubers who make similar style videos and see what was going on, and the results are actually really interesting. And before we get started, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Kyle. I make art-related videos here on YouTube. And in today's video, like I mentioned, I'm going to be talking about some of the like mini analyses and the results that I found from looking at just different art YouTubers who make art vlogs and that style of video, and kind of just what has been going on this year so far with their videos, and you know, if they're underperforming or overperforming videos in the past. And again, for those of you who don't know, I am a part-time artist here on YouTube. I only do art part-time. I only make YouTube videos in my spare time. It's kind of like a hobby for me. My full-time job is actually as a data scientist, so I really like doing stuff like this. I love looking at trends and analyzing data. And you know, in saying that, I know that this, like what I'm doing here is like not, you know, like a formal analysis or anything. So obviously take everything before we start with a grain of salt. And I'm going to kind of talk about, before we get into the results or what I'm seeing, I'm going to talk about some limitations and just kind of like what I'm actually doing here, like what data I collected, things like that. So let's get into that, and then we'll talk about the results. So basically what I did is I just took a very small sample size of only 5 YouTube channels. I only really watch like a few YouTube channels in general. So I try to take my 5 most watched YouTube channels and just look at what I did was I took their total views from all their videos from this year so far, so like January to now, like early March in 2025, and then I also did the same thing for last year from like January till early-ish March in 2024. And so I collected all this data, so I have like 10 sets of data essentially, so like 2 sets, like 2 different years for each of the 5 different channels. And I used all that data to kind of look at trends across the years for each channel. I'm also not going to say who the YouTubers were specifically, and even though like all this is very publicly facing information, like I just literally went to their videos and looked at the view count, and that's all I did. So like it's not obviously like a secret or anything like that, but I just like don't want to make anyone feel bad if like, you know, their videos aren't doing well this year versus last year, or you know, if some people's are, some people's aren't. I just don't want to make anyone like feel bad or shame anyone, because like that's not my point of doing this at all. And like they shouldn't feel like that. Obviously, like all these YouTubers are like amazing YouTubers and I love their videos. But yeah, I'm just not gonna put that out there obviously. But yeah, I mean, if anything, hopefully after seeing some of these trends, maybe they'll feel better. I don't know if they even see these videos. 100% none of them will. But it would be cool if they did. So again, the basic idea was I just took like the view count from like the first few videos in 2025, and then the same time frame-ish in 2024. And obviously there's a lot of things that could account for this that I'm not measuring, and I'm not correcting for anything in these analyses. I'm literally just doing like an exploratory observational type analysis, just looking at like trends. I'm not running any like formal statistical tests or anything like that. So, you know, again, like this is all just very like exploratory and just kind of like a fun thing for me to do. And just like I've just found some interesting things. But again, like it's not like official or anything, and I obviously know that there's a lot of things that can contribute to this that I'm not like thinking about potentially. Yeah, obviously it's just all stuff to think about when we're looking at the results. There's also not the same exact number of videos per year for like every channel. So like some channels have more videos this year than they did last year through this time period, and some people have less. So just that's another thing to keep in mind. And also like I think it's important to think about too that like, you know, as time goes on, obviously YouTubers they figure out like different niches, or they figure out different ways to make their videos, which could also affect their viewership. I think in general, for me, most of these YouTubers have been pretty consistent from last year to this year. I don't think their videos have like changed like in style or like content type too much. So I think that like the changes shouldn't be too drastic and like drop in viewership or, you know, increase in viewership from like that specific area. Like you can imagine if a YouTuber like was mostly making like Artist Alley or con type videos and then decided to only make like draw with me's or something, like that might affect their viewership completely, like in a very large way. But I don't think that really was the case for any of these artists. Also, I will say that all these artists from 2024 to 2025 grew in subscriber count, and I think some of them were pretty substantial. A lot of this is from memory. Some of the YouTubers actually posted like an end of the year recap, and they kind of shared what their change in subscriber count was. And I'll go over when I talk about like kind of the results, like some of the percent increases in that versus percent increase or decrease in views and those types of things. But again, these are just all different things to think about, and this is really potentially really complicated, but I'm just trying to make it into like a fun little analysis that I thought was really interesting. Okay, so let's talk about the results. So the first thing I did was I plotted each set of data, where each set, again, is just a specific time point, so 2025 or 2024, for a specific channel. And then I put those different time points together on the same plot for each channel. So you can see each channel has a different plot up here, and all of the green lines, all the different time points together in green, represent 2025 videos, and all of the orange points and the orange line represent the 2024 videos. I plotted all the videos in sequential order, so the first point on the plot is the first video that was released in a given year, and so on. Obviously, one thing to note is that there's not the same, and I think I said this before, there's not the same number of videos per year necessarily. And also another thing to keep in mind is that the first video in 2024 might not be the same date as the first video in 2025 and so on. So like the points themselves, like I wouldn't compare the points themselves, I would just compare the overall trends and the lines in general. And then, so the x-axis in this case is just over time, and then the y-axis is the total number of views. The other thing I have on these plots is the mean and median total views for a given year. And I use both the median and the mean because, as you can see in all the orange plots specifically, there's generally like an outlier video, so a video that's just very different from like the average video. And that can obviously affect the mean, so I want to put the median as well. Okay, so now we can start like talking about some of the things that I'm seeing and some of the trends, and it's really interesting because you can see in general that all of the orange lines seem to be above the green lines overall for across all the channels, which means that all of the videos from 2024, which are the orange lines, have, if they're higher, they have higher view count than the 2025 videos, which are the green lines. It just seems really like interesting that this is happening across all of the channels. And you can see this also obviously in the mean and median view count for 2024 and 2025. So it looks like that we're seeing that all the videos so far in 2025 seem to be performing not as well as the videos in 2024 for that same time period. And I will say that these YouTube channels all have different numbers of subscribers. One of them has like around 10,000, I think. One has around 50-ish thousand. Another has around like 150,000, and I know one has around like 500,000. So they're all different sizes, and we're still seeing this trend across all of them, which is like pretty interesting. And I believe all these YouTube channels grew from like 2024 to 2025. I don't think any of them were really stagnant, and none of them I don't think decreased. And this is all from memory, except there were a few videos or channels that released like a recap of 2024 recap video, where they did talk about like how much they specifically grew. And from those videos, I was able to calculate some of like the percent growth, and like some of the percent growth is like between like 10 and 25%, which is like pretty high. Like one of the YouTube channels I think grew from like 400,000 to 500,000, which is like a 25% increase, and also just like a massive amount of people gained. And their videos are still like not getting as many views, which is like really strange that you'd think that like if they grow that much, and all these channels as they grow, like they'd be getting more views in general. And that's just like not happening. I also calculated the median percent decrease for all the channels between 2024 and 2025, and obviously they're all negative because all the views are going down for the next year for 2025. But it's pretty crazy because the highest was negative 80%, which is like pretty crazy that like the views are going down that much. And again, like this isn't to like say these artists are like not making as good of videos or anything like that, because like just from like me watching these videos, I think these videos, they all look great, and they haven't changed or gotten worse. Like the topics are pretty similar across the years in my mind. So like it's really confusing that this is all happening. And the other trend to like kind of notice, which also might explain a little bit potentially what's going on, is that like all these channels had a big pop-off video in 2024, specifically at the beginning of 2024. And I think that's really interesting that like all these videos had that, especially because like that's not the video that drove me into finding them. So like it's not like that was like I wasn't like I didn't find any of these channels through that video, so it's like not like a correlation there, I guess, at least, which is nice. But yeah, I think it's really interesting that they all had that video, because like I don't know if it just means it was easier to have pop-up videos in 2024 maybe, but like also you can kind of think like, well, maybe that video like drove up their views for the rest of their videos for like a month or two, and that might be the case, but you can kind of see in like some of these plots that like the views aren't like consistently like going down. One of them it kind of is, but the rest of them, like the views seem to kind of just be still like moving around like up and down after that one pop-up video. So I feel like that video didn't have hopefully too much influence on like the videos that came after it, but you never know, like that could be part of this. But it's interesting too that like they all did have that pop-up video. And so like I don't know if that was just like easier potentially to like have that happen in 2024. I don't know, because it hasn't happened for any of these channels yet in 2025. And this actually idea kind of goes a little bit along with a stream I was watching that KSIM and Sims Arts were doing together. And they were talking about from their experience like how right now they think it's like a lot more difficult to grow for YouTube and Instagram artists than it was a few years ago, because I think of a lot of things, but the main thing I think they focused on was that like the culture was just so different like 3 or 4 years ago, especially because of COVID and everyone staying inside, working from home more, not doing as much stuff, and having so much more time to like scroll and watch videos. And so I think just like as time has gone on, it's just gotten like people have been doing a lot less of like watching videos and going to Instagram and things like that. It's just like I think like the influencer culture like really like grew in like the COVID years, and so I think that's like I think that was like a huge thing for artists. It was really easy to have like those pop-up videos and those pop-up like posts and reels and things like that back then, whereas like now it's just like not happening as much, and people are noticing that, I think. So I think that kind of goes along with this as well. And I know like obviously that time period was like 2020 to 2022-ish, but obviously, you know, things take time to like dissipate, and like you see the effects like years later usually. So I think that like that could be part of it as well. And I think that kind of leads into like, why is this happening? And obviously I don't know, because like I, again, just did like a very preliminary basic analysis looking at trends of 5 channels. Like I know it's like a tiny sample size. And like they're all channels that I follow, so they're all obviously correlated to some extent. So like, I mean, obviously I don't know, like again, take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt, but it's just interesting that like that these trends are happening across these different channels, especially with like the different channel sizes and stuff. Although I do think that like some of them share audiences, but I think they are different enough that like that maybe isn't as big an influence as it could be. I'm not sure. But yeah, again, like why is this happening? I don't know. And obviously again, like all these channels are like correlated through me, so like they're all like that's like I'm not surprised that like I'm seeing like trends across all of them, since they're all channels that I follow, so like they must have something in common, because I like them all. But yeah, I mean, I think like there could be a few reasons. I think like what I just said about like the COVID thing and like just videos not being as easy to like blow up, and like people just not having as much time to watch videos. I also think like right now too, like the year we're in, and like it's a political change year for the US at least, and a lot of places too. And I think there's just like a lot going on right now in the world, especially in the US, where we get so much new news every single day. There's so many updates, there's so much going on. Like foreign policy right now is like going crazy for us, and like probably a really big contributor to like people just not having as much time to watch YouTube videos, or like just like not having as much like energy to devote to that, because like it takes a lot of like mental energy and stress to like keep up with all the news and everything that's going on right now in the US. So like it's just a lot. So I totally get it. Like I think I have fallen off too of watching like some of these YouTubers. Like you know, you just don't have time, and then you don't like watch them for a couple weeks, and then you just never get their videos again. They aren't recommended to you. So like, and then you forget about them. So like I think that is part of it. I also think like the economy is a little bit maybe part of it too, because like a lot of these YouTubers that I picked here have like online shops, and like they're like online artists that are kind of selling stuff, and so maybe people just like don't feel like they have the means to like purchase from them right now, so they're just not as interested in following them. Or, you know, things like I watch a lot of these videos because I wanted to start my own art shop and art journey and art YouTube channel and things like that, so like kind of for inspiration. And maybe people just like aren't as interested in doing that right now, so like they're just, these videos aren't as popular either. I don't know, like I think that's just like all part of it. And I think there's like, again, like a lot of contributing factors, and I can't measure everything obviously, but I don't know, there's just some ideas. Let me know if you have any thoughts about this in the comments, like if you have any ideas of why this might be happening, or if you're seeing this happen at all. I'd be interested to hear, like, you know, if you've noticed anything. I think that would be really interesting to kind of do a similar thing with like a larger set of videos, and also like videos from different like art niches. So like these are all like pretty much similar art vlog type videos. Like they're vloggers and they do like day in my life studio, like a studio type vlogs, things like that, and like with sprinkled in with like how-tos. Like all of them have a few of like how-to type videos, and like inspirational type content. So it's like that type of video. Whereas like I think there's obviously a lot of other niches. Someone who just does like cons or a draw with me or tutorials, like that type of thing. And I'd be interested to see like the differences across the different niches or different like content types, and seeing if we see similar trends, or if it's like one type of content is emerging as like, you know, people are watching more this year versus last year, or anything like that. I think it'd be really interesting to do that. But I don't know if I will. So if you would be interested in that, like, let me know. Because it'd be a lot of work. Because I pulled all these numbers down, like, literally manually. I just went to the videos and, like, typed in, like, the views. And I know there's, like, an API you can do it with, but I didn't, like, invest time into that. Because I was like, I'm only going to do this for a few channels. Because it's just, like, an exploratory fun thing for me. So anyway, with that, I will end the video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this kind of interesting. And again, like, I don't know if it's, like, even super valuable. Because, like, it's such a small sample size, and they're all channels that I watch. But I still think it's interesting to see that we're seeing this trend across like a few different channels. And I'm feeling this as well in my channels. So like, it's obviously happening to me and some of my art friends that also have YouTube channels that are smaller. So yeah, I think it's like just kind of like happening overall in general, which is again why I wanted to look at this. So yeah, if you found it interesting, please feel free to like the video. And if you want to follow my art journey or want more videos like this, feel free to subscribe, and let me know if you would be interesting in like seeing videos similar to this, kind of like I said, or if you have any comments about like if this is happening to your channel or any channels that you know, if you're seeing something similar. I'd love to hear, you know, anything you have to share. And yeah, thank you so much for being here, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.